social. I'm sorry about that. Having some difficulties today. He's co-founder of the Chronic Fatigue School. Over the last 15 years, he has combined principles of body work, mind retraining, and somatic trauma therapies to help thousands of clients all over the world heal from chronic pain and illness. He is a regular contributor to the Trauma Research Foundation's blog and has led programming for the Wounded Warrior Project, Apollo Center for Yoga and Health, as well as Starbucks. Again, we want to welcome everyone from all over the world here. And we also want to welcome Carden for joining us today. Carden, take it away.
Thank you, Star, and hello, everyone, everywhere. Thanks for coming today. So today's program is part of a 5-part series called Transforming Triggers, a top-down and bottom-up approach. And it doesn't matter if you haven't been here for the other 2. We're creating this in such a capacity that each lesson is a standalone thing that is hopefully helpful in kind of expanding your mind-body skills. But then you may also tune into previous chapters of this, or installments of this on the TRF YouTube channel, where they also have all the other fabulous presenters. So that's a resource for you as well. And today is the 3rd installment, and it's called State Shifting with Pendulation. And pendulation is a term coined by Peter Levine of somatic experiencing, which is a trauma therapy that he developed. And pendulation describes the capacity of the nervous system to swing between states. That's I could say, the most subtle way of describing it. It's that, we can go from sad to happy, from scared to feeling comfortable and safe. And there's a whole big spectrum in between. And as is sort of the thrust of this series, the way trauma and stress tends to affect us on a day-to-day is in how we experience it, how we experience triggers. When we're driving and something dangerous happens, how that affects our body, how work stress affects our body, how family interactions affect our body, right? It all happens here, and it's in those moments of being triggered that we feel deeply uncomfortable, and then often execute behaviors from the past that are meant to try to keep us safe. And it's a lot of those behaviors that further kind of define our experience of being impacted by trauma. Today, we're going to try to dip lightly into helping you attune to your body, and then helping you to experiment with this idea of pendulation, of being able to shift from one state to another. And this can be really, really useful, because I think we've all found numerous occasions where we see ourselves being triggered and we see ourselves behaving a way that we may not want to behave, but we feel powerless to change it. The what always happens. And if we had the ability to not only see it, but then to shift it, to pendulate it, then there's an opportunity for a change, for modifying the way the trigger impacts us, for modifying our response to the trigger. And with that, we'll get into describing the exercise. So first, I'm going to use a metaphor. If we can think of a triggered state as one where we're getting kind of really activated, really shocked, we're kind of unprepared for it. Once it happens, our body does something like this, right? Or like that, or like that, right? We go into some kind of behavior. You can think of what we're going to do today. We're going to be resourcing a positive state to see if we can go into a slightly negative state and be less reactive. Another way to think about this is if it's really, really, really cold outside, if it's February in New England and it's 0 degrees out, and you step outside, in just a t-shirt and shorts, your body is quickly going to go, oh, right? It's going to be so cold and it's going to lock down. It's going to start shivering. But if it's the same weather outside, but you decided to bundle up, you put your long johns on, you put long pants on, you put on your puffy jacket or your parka, you can step out into that same weather, which is really technically the same trigger, but it's going to affect you very differently because of the preparation of the clothing. And you can think of a resource state as access to a prepared, positive nervous system frequency that may make going into a negative state easier or different. So that's what we're going to experiment with today. And as just a precaution, we're going to really work with some low stakes reference points. And so, for example, I'm going to ask you guys to take a moment to, if you have a pen and paper, you can write it down. Otherwise, you can just note it in your head. I would like you to select a negative situation or trigger that you'd like to work with. And it's got to be really low stakes. And so what I mean by low stakes, a really low level trigger could be if you're someone who gets frustrated when there's two people in front of you online at the supermarket, that might be an appropriate trigger to work with today. Another could be simply, if you get an email in your inbox and it makes you feel a little tense. So choosing a low level negative situation to work with, folks. By the way, if at any point during our work you're feeling a little too activated or too charged, you can just stop and not participate. Feel your body in your chair, but don't feel like you have to go along with this if it feels uncomfortable. Now, on the other hand, I'd like you to identify a resourceful state, a positive state. And one example for doing that is you could think of just a person that's a buddy of yours that, makes you feel good, right? It could just simply be a coworker. It could be a teacher. It could be a colleague. It could be a friend that you've had since childhood. You could pick a person that simply their presence usually makes you feel better. And then the other option is to pick a situation where maybe a small achievement. Someone said, thank you for helping them out with something. You were acknowledged at work for giving a good presentation. Some kind of what I call mini victory. So I can give you just a couple more seconds here to choose your low stakes negative situation and your resource state. And with that, we're going to give it a go. And to do that, we're going to first tune into the body as it is now. So my invitation is for you to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Of course, you're welcome to leave your eyes open as well. And the invitation is just to tune in. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to modify your breathing. You don't have to try to relax. It's just to tune in to how you and your body are doing right now. And it can be a little easier if we direct our attention to a few places rather than the whole body. A place that you can direct your attention to is your chest, your sternum, your heart area. And you can gauge the level of tension there. Does it feel completely open and easy to breathe, or does it feel a little closed and restricted? And then as you're noticing your chest, heart area, engaging that level, you can then pivot your attention to your upper back, shoulders, and neck. What's the level of tension there? Are your shoulders trying to glue themselves like earrings to the sides of your head, or are they dropping? And relative to one to the other, just notice the tension level in the chest versus the tension level in the upper back. There might be some interesting information there. And then you can just widen your perspective and just give your entire body an overall maybe a tension number on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 being the most tense, 1 being the least tense. Make a little mental note of what number you're scoring. And with those measures, with the area of the chest and the heart, the back, neck, and shoulders, and the global tension level, those are going to be like our little subjective measures that we use as we progress through the exercise here. And so now, keeping your body attuned and your attention attuned to your body, I invite you to bring to mind the positive state that you noted for yourself, whether that be the friend or the achievement. And you're sharing your attention between the visualization of the situation or person. And you want to slow it down and kind of give it a little more detail. How can you make the recollection a little more vivid? In this state, in the case of a friend, can you see their face? In the achievement, can you slow down and remember the moment? And as you are doing so, can you also notice if there are any shifts in how your body is feeling? Does the chest, sternum, heart area, does that tension shift? Upper back, shoulders, neck, any shift there? And in that global sense, on that scale of 1 to 5, as you allow your body to absorb the visual, the recollection of the person of the moment. Does it permeate? Does it steep? Does it marinate? Does it change anything? And having noticed if anything shifted as you resource into a positive state, I'd like you to continue to notice your body. And now I'm going to invite you to recollect the very low stakes, negative or annoying state, trigger. And what does it feel like as you allow your mind and your memory and your attention to remember, like I said, whether it's being stuck in line or seeing the email or whatever that low level trigger is? What happens? What happens in your chest, heart, sternum area? What happens in your upper back, shoulders, and neck? And you might have even had other things other than the areas that we were checking come online. Maybe you're noticing a shift in your jaw. Maybe there's something else. And in this moment, you are witnessing how your embodied nervous system instantly responds to inputs, triggers that activate habitual pathways. Here's the irritant. Here's what my body's going to do. These are the sensations. And then, by the way, the behaviors that we implement to try to get out of the negative feelings is what it's shifting that becomes possible when we shift state. So tracking in your body for another moment, what happened as you tapped into the negative? And now the invitation is to pendulate, is to swing your attention back to the positive or the resource state. To bring back the visual of your friend or reimagining the moment of achievement or success. Slow it down, give yourself some grace. It sometimes takes a little bit longer to shift from the negative to the positive. Noticing your visualization, the details of the face, the details of the moment, and also noticing your body's response. Nice. You know, if we're making tea, right, if there's a bag of tea and we put it in some hot water, we have to give it a minute or two or three for that tea to steep into the water and actually flavor it. It's very similar when you're practicing states, especially positive or resource states. You have to use the visualization, the tea bag, in time to feel it spread into your body. And as you become enrobed in that positive state again, all right, we've got that winter jacket on before we go into the cold. We're going to do a final experiment. And I'm going to invite you, noticing the body, to swing back into the same low stakes negative incident or trigger. And I want you to be curious. What happens? Does your body, does your chest, shoulders, neck, does it have the same level of activation or reaction, or is it different now? It's different for everyone, but for some, you may be noticing that as you swing back into the negatives, that the intensity of the response has softened or shifted a bit. There might be a little more space, a little more ease, a little less reactivity. There may not. Noticing the body one more time as you accessed that irritating moment. And the final invitation is just to pendulate back into the positive resource state, bringing that visual to mind and letting that body steep in the supportive resource state. Taking your time, allowing your attention to flow from the visual to the body, feeling their relationship. And last but not least, I just invite you to take a moment to place your hand on your heart. And to just acknowledge yourself for taking a half an hour out of your day to do something kind for yourself. To do something to further your healing path, connection with your mind body. It is an extraordinary thing to do. and a very kind thing to do. Maybe you can give yourself a little gift of a smile. And then we can open our eyes. Move the body a little bit, because often during these practices we can get a little stuck.
Thank you, Carden.
You're welcome. Thanks everyone for joining and participating.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your positive and therapeutic session today with us. It was beautiful just to have a lovely reminder to kind of, again, the pendulum is a great symbol of what to do, what not to do, right? And coming back to that and coming into balance. So to our viewers, thank you for being intentional in joining us today. We are so happy that you're here, whether if you're new to TRF or if you're already part of our community. You will find past sessions on the TRF website. Look for the TRF Somatic Library under Resources, the Resource tab. Also, a link has been added to the chat to offer your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Behind the scenes, we have our very own Connor McCann and Mary Frangie. I am Star Muhammad. It has been a pleasure. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.